Hello, I'm Danielle Knight. I'm a collaboration partner at the University of Westminster in London, in the UK. And I'll just give you a bit of background on the University of Westminster. It was established as in 1838 as the Royal Polytechnic Institution. So it's had a long history of applied research and teaching, which integrates with industry. And the university's perhaps most well known for our world-leading communications and media research institute, as well as work in fashion and the music industry, as well as architecture and logistics and computer science and informatics. So famous alumni that you may have heard of include Dame Vivienne Westwood, the fashion designer Christopher Bailey, filmmaker Charlie Brooker, physician and microbiologist Sir Alexander Fleming, and members of Pink Floyd and the Rolling Stones. So the university currently partners with around 200 different businesses, including Burberry, Huawei, Transport for London, and to name just a few. So my role is to work alongside academics and researchers within the University of Westminster's College of Design, Creative and Digital Industries. So and together we develop collaborative R&D projects with external partners. So there's a wealth of world-leading expertise and work within the college, which unfortunately I don't have time to delve into too deeply today. But here's a kind of snapshot overview of the research areas where collaboration with industry is making a real impact. So there's computer vision and imaging technologies, urban air transport management and future scenario planning for aviation using big data, cybersecurity, serious games in various domains from health to museum education, and there's a big emphasis on augmented reality and VR as well, and several different departments dealing with that, and different laboratories as well. So my role is to facilitate collaboration and to ensure that external partnerships are meaningful and impactful, and that knowledge exchange is happening as much as possible. So today I'd like to introduce you to a couple of projects that are either just coming to an end at the University of Westminster or are ongoing at the moment. And they relate to several of the key themes from Northernlands3. So the first one's climate emergency and planetary data, but it also relates to urban living, and that's the Monsoon Assemblages project, which I'll introduce you to in a minute. And then we'll also be looking at data rights and data security through the Ascerpios project. But before I do that, I'd just like to briefly explain the University of Westminster's approach to open data and open access to research. So it's about a balance of openness between being as open as possible, but as restricted as necessary. So we think it's an ethical research principle which enables equitable access to public knowledge. Multiple reasons for that: preventing false information, and ensuring that innovative methods and approaches and ideas are as accessible as possible. So here is the Monsoon Assemblages project. So this is an interdisciplinary international project, which is exploring the relationship between changing monsoon climates and rapid urban growth in 3 of South Asia's largest cities, which is Chennai, Dhaka and Yangon. And this project has been undertaken at a time when volatile monsoon climates are converging with normative city planning and unplanned urban growth as well. So this international team are led by the University of Westminster's Professor Lindsay Bremner, and that's in collaboration with Indian Institute of Technology in Chennai, in India, and the Bengal Institute of Architecture in Dhaka, and Anna University in Chennai, and then also an NGO called Care Earth Trust in Chennai, and research initiatives in Bangladesh as well. So the aim of the project is to produce knowledge of and design strategies as well for these urban environments, which are very large cities, and conceptualizing them as more than human monsoonal ecological systems that operate across multiple scales with many different types of data and being generated and also analysed. So the project develops an interdisciplinary approach to the design of cities. So it's, instead of treating the monsoon as a threat, it's looking at it as an organising principle of urban life. And assessing the potential impact of that approach as well for contemporary life within these cities. So what's quite interesting about this project is that it was funded as part of the Horizon 2020 Open Data Pilot Scheme. So I'm not sure if you are aware of it. The European Commission enables open access and reuse of research data generated by those projects. And there are two main pillars to that. One being a data management plan and the other being open access to the research data that emerges from the project. So it's been really exciting for us because this the Monsoon Assemblages project is the first project that the University of Westminster is funding as a data repository. So we're very excited about that. And then there are also multiple ways that this research is being communicated and to make it accessible to the public and to all sorts of different stakeholders. So there is an open access website which you can access at the bottom, and there's some beautiful publications that you can find on there. Everything's open access and free. There's also the exhibition is being launched. It was launched a couple of weeks ago, so it's online. You can access it until the end of March, and then ongoing as well. But there's events that you might be able to sign up to as well. So do check it out. It's really exciting, and you can find out much more than I'm able to tell you today, or do ask questions about it later on as well. So here are some of the publications that you can download. As I mentioned, the architects, I don't know, they're just always sometimes make the most beautifully designed publications as well as buildings. So yes, they're multimedia publications, so check them out on the website. And the next project that I'd like to talk to you about is Ascerpios, and this is another European Commission funded project, and it's a large-scale collaborative project with partners across Europe, and it's began in 2019 and it's ongoing until 2022. It's led by the director of the Centre for Parallel Computing at the University of Westminster, Professor Tamas Kiss. And the vision of Ascerpios is to maximise and strengthen the trust of users of cloud-based healthcare services, and doing that by developing mechanisms for protecting both corporate and personal sensitive data, so individuals' medical data. So the project is in the area of cybersecurity generally, but that's within a healthcare context such as hospitals and care centres. So it's aiming to improve the security of e-health systems and connected medical devices. And the core technical focus here is cryptography and data security. But it's also heavily concentrating on data sharing as well, access rights, GDPR considerations, and patients' and researchers' access rights and patterns to data, and how that all interacts. So Ascerpios architecture is developing novel security solutions for handling sensitive medical data. And then at the same time, it's about raising awareness of data security and sharing in healthcare organisations for all of the different practitioners and also patients and any professionals that might be involved in this as well. So I've just summarised here the different technological and research objectives. So the project Consortium is it's a very interesting model. As I mentioned before, it's organisations from across Europe are involved in this. The Amsterdam University Medical Centres are involved in this, University in Florida, we've got the Norwegian Centre for E-Health Research, organisations in Sweden, and cybersecurity organisations in Greece, and different SMEs as well, all working together on this. So it's feeding it, it's such a varied amount of data, all feeding into this as well, and everybody talking about their various concerns. So I'm just going to give you a very brief overview of the Ascerpios project and the architecture. So it's investigating, customizing and applying new cloud orchestration technologies for the cloud deployment hosting of its demonstrators. So the architecture consists of different layers. You've got a trusted cloud provider layer, which is on the infrastructure as service model basis, and it's responsible for storing encrypted versions of users' data. That's patients, doctors, healthcare practitioners, and so on and so forth. And a key tray is the key storage component there. And it's responsible for storing ciphertext of all the symmetric keys that have been generated by different data owners and have been used to encrypt medical records. So after that, you've got crypto layer, and the crypto layer will be implemented as a collection of cryptographic algorithms and will form one of the key components for the security of Ascerpios and also its main functionality as well. And then there's an analytics layer, and that the project is expecting a massive volume of data to be generated through this work, and it will be processed through the Ascerpios framework. And it will result in insights with potential significance here. So that's why there's a separate layer that will be responsible for conducting analytics within the architecture because of the wide range of health data. So there's also a policy enforcement layer, which will introduce the appropriate methods and tools to implement an efficient and flexible access policies, middleware and modern cloud-enabled healthcare systems too. There's a registration authority layer responsible for medical personnel and patients' underlying electronic healthcare service aspect. And it's also connected to the attestation layer that will allow certain users to validate the service integrity. And it's about all relating to the trustworthiness of the overall service that will be offered. And finally, we come to the revocation layer, which is responsible for the revocation of users that might have been compromised or lost their access rights. So that brings me to the end of explaining about Ascerpios. And yes, it's been great to introduce those projects to you, but hopefully we can talk through them a little bit more in the questions. So look forward to talking to you then. Thank you.
Thanks, Danielle, and welcome back to ODI Leeds, but this time it's on a video call, not in person. So the first thing I want to do is congratulate you for hitting all of the key points that we're looking for. So we're working with data, we're working with digital, we're working with health. You've linked to our North Sea neighbours, and we're working with some great people. So the first question I've got is, if we want to look at the exhibition, where do we find it?
So it's online now. It's a virtual exhibition and it's up until the 29th of March. And if you follow the link that was in the talk, it's called Monsoon Multiplicities, and you can book for free via Eventbrite. I'll link it into the chat on the ODI on the event website in a moment as well.
Fantastic. And there are so many aspects to what you've done, and I've just been listening to it for the first time now. So what do you think that, difficult to say, but sort of normal people can take out of this, and how do we're sort of looking at equity in terms of data and especially around trust and health? Mm-hmm. What are some of the key things that you found in the work?
So I think it's interesting in terms of when we're talking about cloud computing, because there are a couple of concerns generally which are around, on the one hand you've got privacy, and then the other you've got security, and they intersect of course, but it's often common in the kind of really large cloud-based computing that you've got high security, so things are patched quite quickly, but the privacy might not be as great. And then if you've got kind of smaller secured networks, that what you would have would be where there might be, so in a hospital, for example, in more traditional settings where Ascerpios wasn't at play, that you would have high privacy, but the security might be a bit slower to respond. And so what's quite interesting about the kind of aims of the Ascerpios project is that it's kind of secure and scalable, and it can be used on either, which is fantastic. So I think it's just that there's a solution that is really transferable across lots of different applications, essentially, which is quite exciting.
Yeah. Fantastic. And we need to get more people to access those tools, and I guess get out of sometimes we call it the privacy trap, where we're constantly talking about ethics and privacy when we don't get into the innovation conversation.
Exactly. So it's fantastic, and I think having all of those different partners involved in the project has really allowed to kind of get to the core of what needs to happen in terms of innovation.
And as always, we're thinking about what happens next. So you talked about some really interesting projects there. So where do you think they're going to go next? And we're talking about Brexit, we're talking about our North Sea neighbours, we're talking about a load of things that are really interesting. And what happens next?
It's very interesting with, obviously, in relation to healthcare and thinking about people's privacy. Of course, there's talk of vaccine passports and things like this, isn't there, going forwards? And yeah, the ethical implications of that in terms of equality and diversity and access. But I think, whether that comes to pass or not, in terms of people's health and well-being, if this can be rolled out in kind of care home settings, it has huge potential for really helping people to engage a bit more with their healthcare and their information and what that means, and to be a bit more aware of it. And rather than it being something that's kind of scary or seems very technical, that it's kind of user focused as well, whether that be healthcare professionals who are all across an organisation, or whether that's patients, and getting people to kind of engage with their health and well-being in collaboration.
I'm just going to show you my badge, which is that's Open Data Saves Lives, and it's a badge big enough so that people can see. So we'd love you to join in with our Open Data Saves Lives work, which is all about open innovation in the health sector. So we'll be getting you involved in that when that kicks off in Nanga. We've been doing it this year, but it'll kick off more from April next year. We've got some really good news to share on that.
Look forward to that. I've actually still got my badge from the previous Northernlands event that I attended, which says "Stay in touch with the Dutch," and I've still got it. I should have been wearing it today, really.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So thanks very much, and I think stay in touch with the Dutch is absolutely what our sponsors would want to hear today with our North Sea neighbours. So thanks, Danielle.